Hello guys and girls, how you going? It's Mark Hummer here again. We're talking today about the glide gear system. I've recently upgraded my Steadicam sort of system. I've gone from a 50-50 system with glide gear, and now I'm using the Glidecam Devin Special. I'll just run you through it and I'll show you why I've made the changes and how I think it's going to improve what I do. So just let me bring it up on the table and I'll show you what I've got. This is the unit here. Obviously I've got a DSLR on top and a monitor and a microphone. But principally we're talking about this unit here that I've upgraded. Now why did I upgrade? Well, let me show you the previous one I had and I'll run you through some of the details and you'll see what the improvements are. The previous one I have here, it was the Glide Gear 50-50. Came with a vest and arm. It was actually the 6001 system they call it. I've kept the vest and arm because the vest and arm is actually still perfectly fine and usable, but I found that this item was just too light. Yes, it was perfect for just a DSLR on top, but once I started adding an external monitor, a microphone and a very heavy lens, it just became, well, out of its class. So very good for a mirrorless or a light crops frame sensor camera, but once you start getting some accessories on top, it just really wasn't holding its own. So the vest and arm that it comes with it was fantastic, and I'm still using that now. That's able to adapt to the weight of this one, so it has tension adjustment, so that wasn't an issue, but this was just too limiting. So what I'll do is I'll run you through some of the variations in the two to show you why I've preferred this new one. Now obviously it's a lot more expensive too. When you upgrade anything you're going to have to spend more money. This one here was worth about $550. It was very limiting in its usefulness in that this was not really adjustable in height, this gimbal handle, so very often I was finding that I was clanging the top here, as you can see here as I'm illustrating, and when I was going down low, for example, and I was jerking the camera and making issues for my flexibility. The second thing I didn't like about it was the plate up the top. There was just too many adjustments and handles and knobs. I'm adjusting this, tensioning that, having to unlock things to make movements of adjustment, and it was just so very exasperating, especially on the fly when you're trying to make some quick changes or change a lens, and it was just so exasperating getting balance back again. It's not that it didn't work, it does work fine, it does everything that they say it will do, but it was just too fiddly for my liking. So in contrast with that light unit, I now have this heavier duty unit. And what I like about this system is that this handle here is completely adjustable. So I'll just bring it into the center of the screen there. And what you can do with this is a quick flick of a switch here, just adjusting this here, tension. I can go up, or I can go all the way down and find the level that I like that suits my best use. Now you may be able to pick it up in the camera there, but there are measurements along here, so I can always remember where I had it, and if I find a perfectly suitable spot, gives me all the flexibility I need. As you can see now, the handle can go up and I'm not clanging anything. I mean, if I was to clang the shaft now, I'd be definitely too low. Anyway, it'd be ridiculous. But it gives me a lot of flexibility. So I can have it up or down as I wish, and that just gives me that quick exchange mode that's really, really handy. That was actually the selling feature in the whole unit. The other thing I like is that it's an overall a taller unit, and that means that I'm needing less weight down low. So when it comes to how many weights I put on, because I can extend the system so much lower, then it means now I don't have to have so much weight in the whole unit, and now I've got accessories up top, well, I need all the help with the weighting as that I can. With this, another interesting feature is that if I am to drop this down, you notice that it actually stops. It has a little internal stopper, so you can't drop the whole unit out. On the previous one, when I undid the handle, that whole thing would just drop to the ground if I wasn't careful. So that's just another little feature that I don't have to stress about, that it will stay in position and be secured for me. I'm not going to make a fool of myself on site. One other feature, of course, that is very brilliant about this is what they call the low mode, when you're actually filming upside down and you're getting some low shots. Now what's the advantage of this unit here? Well, again, it's the fact that this handle will change so quickly. So I can bring it down like this, down to a low center of gravity like that, flip the camera around, and now it's counterbalanced beautifully for getting some low mode shots. And I can come down as low as I like to the ground level. Particularly excellent when you're filming things like skateboarding or little pets and animals down on the ground, or doing a pan over someone lying in a flower bed, for example, and you can get really down low, and it's quick to do. And when you want to set it back and balance it back up for your traditional height, well, again, you just go straight back up. You know where your setting was. It's all measured, like a little ruler up the side, and then I'm straight back into a balance unit, and I'm not even having to think again about rebalancing the whole rig. So these little modifications like that really was worth the money. Now how much did this thing cost? Well, it was a $1,300 purchase, so it was more than double the cost of the other one, but it's certainly more than double the value, and it's very, very user friendly. One more feature I would like to run you through is up the top here with the adjustments. Now what you might notice is that there are actually now only two handles. There's one on the side and one on the front, where previously the other one had multiple knobs and adjustments. In fact, you had to release all these little brakes before you could make any adjustments, and it was just too time consuming and fiddly. Now this thing locks into place when you put it into its mounting bracket. It can't go anywhere other than a slight slide forward or back. You get to lock it in place, little locking handle I have here, and for adjusting forward or back it's just left or right or forward or back, one knob. Very quick to make any minor changes or balancing adjustments you need. That's really user friendly. Very convenient when you're on the fly having to do some minor balancing changes, maybe because you've changed a lens or moved the monitor position. And that's something else I'd like to talk to you about. I'll just bring this down a bit so I can illustrate for you a bit more comfortably. The monitor I have here, 7-inch monitor from Aperture. It's on a little ball head, so I have flexibility. But what I've done here is, you may see underneath I've added a little plate, just a little steel plate, and it just gives me some extension out the back here to put the monitor on. Now, why do I need the monitor? Obviously the camera has a monitor. Well, it's the size of the monitor. It makes it so much easier to see what's going on. Not so much for focusing, because this lens I have here, autofocus lens anyway, when I press focus on that, it's absolutely brilliant. It's like, I have to say 99.9% of the time it hits focus beautifully every time. So I'm not having to fiddle with focusing myself. I hit the autofocus button, pop, I've got focus and I'm secure with that. But I've got the screen mostly for reassurance of focus and composition. Because when you're moving this thing around and you are always on the fly with the Steadicam, you're barely standing still for very long, you need to be able to check quickly that your composition is correct. Head height is right, the frame side to side is correct, and when you're squinting and looking at that little screen, well, that was really exasperating. So it just makes things a lot easier, particularly for when you're moving on odd angles. Because now I have the fact that I can use it as a flippy screen. I can come up, I can come down, and if I have to get up high for whatever reason now, I can actually look up into the monitor and it's a comfortable viewing position. Same if I'm walking sideways a bit with it. If I'm wanting to walk along in this point of view, well, how do I see the monitor from that angle? Well, now with the monitor to the side, of course I can, as I'm filming. So it's really versatile. It's a little bit of jerry-rigging to make that little monitor stand, but I found that was greatly worth it and really improves in your composition skills. Checking light and dark particularly when you're looking at aperture and so on. The microphone on the top there, well, it's an Aperture microphone as well, and it's a directional shotgun microphone. I've put this on, I use a lot of musical tracks over the top of the videos when I'm doing them, but I wanted a microphone on all the time where I could just rely that if I needed sound for something, it was there. If I choose not to use the sound internally recorded, well, that's fine, but it's available now, and this microphone is extremely sensitive. In fact, it has its own little preamp inside it, so you don't really need to use the camera preamp. Sound quality is very good, and what I find now that you've got to be very careful to adjust it down low. Funny enough, see, with a Steadicam work and a wide-angle lens, 90% of the time you're only a few meters from your subject. So if you have this thing set up too sensitive, you're blurring everything out with the sound, and it sounds atrocious. So the trick is to keep the settings about halfway mark, and you'll find you'll always have good audio. So that's just handy as a backup should you need it. And there are times, of course, when you're doing dialogue and you will. So guys, while I'm here, there's one other thing I would like to bring to your attention, and that is with this unit here, that you may notice that the knobs may look a bit reversed to what you're used to seeing. The reason for this is because I've got the monitor now on the back of the camera, I can't get the camera from the back forward. So what I've done is I've reversed the system of this quick mount plate and made it so that now the camera is mounted from the front backwards rather than from the back forwards. So obviously everything now is a little bit out of skew with what you would normally see. The other advantage of this now is because I couldn't, of course, adjust the knob at the back because the monitor was in the way. But now, having reversed it, the adjustment knob for forward and back is forward under the lens and it's accessible. So just if you notice that when you purchase it and you think, hold it, my one had the knob at the back and the other knob on the other side, simply because I've had to reverse that system so I can now mount the camera on because the monitor was in the way. One other minor detail too is on the base of this unit here, you'll see that I've got these round discs from the former unit. The reason I've done that and kept the Glide Gear round discs is only because the ones that come with it have this little jaggedy edge and a little bit sharp. And I was a bit concerned that if at any stage I happened to hit something, I didn't want to hit it with a sharp jaggedy edge and maybe scratch and paint on a car Duco or something like that. So it's just seemed a bit more safe or practical for me. So some minor improvisations I've done, and I hope that that's a useful tip for you. Other than that, I can only continue to highly recommend this unit and say it was a great buy, and I'm very pleased to have upgraded to it. So just a few seconds ago I was talking to you about how I can still use the vest and arm with the system from the previous model, and I just thought I'd put it on quickly for you. I'll cut to that to save any delays in the show, and I've got it fitted on now, and I'll just show you how it works just as fine with the different brand and different weight structure, just with the adjustments of the tension knobs. Increase the tension a little bit and it's all fine. So here we go. As you can see, it's working fine, floating beautifully. I've got no trouble with the weight or any issues with its performance. Everything interchanges still perfectly, and I'm very happy with this performance now. So just so I can show you here, everything functions beautifully. Still plenty of shock absorberness. This is only on half tension, mind you, I should add, so I could increase the tension more should I put more weight on, but I think this is really the comfortable, most perfect rig for that previous model's unit. So the Glide Gear system is interreactable with it, with the Glidecam. I'm preferring the Glidecam handle arrangement. This Devin special is brilliant, and I just wanted to show people why I've chosen to upgrade and feel that it was a very good choice. I'm very happy with it indeed. But while I'm here, there is one other thing I would like to talk to you about, and that was lenses. So I'll just get to that in a few seconds. There is another thing I'd like to talk to you about, of course, today, and that was the lenses. Now, I'm just going to point out this one here I'm using on the Steadicam. It's a 17 to 35mm zoom. I've chosen that over a prime simply because it gives me the scope and options of going from wide angle 17mm to all the way to 35mm for a bit of a portrait and a close-up. Obviously, you're never going to get great depth of field with a 35mm even, but it's certainly better than being stuck to just only a very wide angle. So the versatility is excellent. Its sharpness is outstanding. It nails focus every time. I can't speak highly enough of that lens. It wasn't cheap, but again, you get what you pay for. That was a fabulous lens from Nikon, so I have to highly recommend that 17 to 35 D lens. The other lens I'd like to talk about is not so much associated with a Steadicam, but certainly an excellent portrait lens, and that is this one here. I've mentioned it before and I'll mention it again. It's the NIKKOR 180mm 2.8 ASI lens. Now this is a beautiful prime lens. There's no zoom, there's no autofocus, there's no stabilization, but it's just old school, well built item. It only has 5 glass elements, so you're not going to get a whole lot of issues with that. It's going to be super sharp and give beautiful colour depth and micro contrast. So I'm encouraging people, if they can obtain one of these, or even the newer models, there's a D model with, you know, it's got autofocus if you need that, that's fine. But I find usually with portraits you've got the time to set up, you can fine tune the focus. I mean, obviously with a 180mm, you know, you're getting a pretty good look into your subject, so you're going to be able to nail focus with your eye anyway. But the image is beautiful, it's sharp, and the bokeh is outstanding. So it's a great value for the $300 I think it cost me. Look, it's definitely better than any, you know, 70 to 200 out there on the market. You'll get a better image result, and of course it's saving you so much money for what I believe to be a better result anyway. The other lens I'd like to talk to you about is another old school lens, but the same vintage as this one up here. It's the 35 to 70 D lens. Again, this one does have autofocus, as this one does, and the beauty of this one here is it's a great replacement for a 24 to 70. 24 to 70 is way too heavy and bulky and big for my liking, and particularly the rendition of the image isn't that great anyway. It's just versatile. This one here has outstanding image quality, and I think it's because it doesn't go quite so wide angle. So if I need 24mm or something like that, I'm going to use this one. I've got a 17 to 35 here, so I have no trouble with wide angle. But this one is a beautiful little portrait lens you can take around with you, particularly in tight spaces when you need something around that range of 50mm, but you would like some versatility, so you're not having to walk forward and back too often. And I just can't speak highly enough of just how well this thing performs. I've got this one in pretty much mint condition when I did. I think I paid $400 for it. It's a little bit pricey, I suppose, but it was because it was in perfect condition. The other thing I'd like to mention is with the hood arrangement, the hood that comes with it is actually this unit here, the little hood here. And as you can see, it's well, it just looks a little bit wonky and out of shape of it. The reason being because it has a wide angle aspect to the lens. They try and broaden it out so you're not getting all that vision editing. But I find that this was almost completely useless. When you have a look at how small it is in comparison, it almost did nothing anyway, so I just got rid of it. I don't even use it. This here hood here is a HN23, perfectly compatible. So it just screws on, and as you can see, it has a lot more shade potential. You will get some vision editing at 35mm. If you're going to have to go wide angle with the lens, just take it off and take your shot. Most times when you're doing 35, you're inside somewhere in a cramped space. The lens hood is no value to you anyway. But outside, on a bright sunny day, when you need that sort of protection, well, you put the hood on and it works beautifully. So this lens here, the 35-70D Nikon, it's a 2.8 aperture, so it's very much lets a lot of light in, and it's a great quality lens. Can't speak highly enough of it. So I'm just encouraging people that if you can find one of good value and good condition, please pick one up. You won't be disappointed, as you may be with a 24-70.